Hey y'all, welcome back to Twin Oaks Family Farm in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. It's April 2nd, 2024. This is day 23, raising a flock of Cornish rock cross meat chickens. There are 123 of them. 119 though is the population count we're going by on the meat birds. At this point, looks like 119 is what we would take to processor. They've got about 15 more days to go before we take them to the processor. So we're getting there, but we got a ways to go. They've got a ways to grow. We're going to go take a look at them. It's been somewhat of an unusual weather day in Southeast Ohio, USA. There was a lot of prep and talk and almost hype yesterday that we were going to have really bad weather today. And in fact, there was terrible storms in Charleston, West Virginia area. So our hearts going out to them, thoughts and prayers for the well-being of folks down there and for recovery with the property. There was some serious property damage from pictures that we saw, but where we are, Southeast Ohio, we didn't get anything that was put on the radar for us to be aware of. So really fortunate, really feel fortunate that we didn't. There was some heavy rain showers maybe 2 or 3 times today, but you know, there was talk of wind and hail and tornado type weather. So really relieved we didn't get that. We had actually transferred some meat between freezers to make sure that we had things where we could utilize a generator if we needed to. So we only have about 150 pounds of poultry in inventory that we were concerned about. But we do have these birds in here. In this barn, there's actually the 123 meat birds and 12 pullets. So like 135 birds in here. Did I run those numbers right? 123 and 12. Yeah, 135. And then on the other building where the egg birds are, we've got about 66 birds up there. So I'd come up before though with about 200. We're right at 200 birds on the property that we're taking care of. So it was a concern in here with what was the weather going to do today, because this is a flock of birds that has never been in darkness. So they have had they've had the heat lamps, which provides light simultaneously, and they've also had an overhead light in the building on their entire lives for the most part. Early on, we did some short 4-hour blocks of turning this overhead light switch off. So that overhead light would be off, but most of these heat lamps would be on. So they still, they still had lighting. So we're going to step inside the pen here. Might be a little jump on the camera while we do that, and just want to get a look at the birds. So basically, you can see they're pretty much at rest. As I start to move around here, they're going to get up, which is okay, because one of the things we do, have we told y'all about exercising the broilers? I know we have with other flocks in other videos from last year, but one of the things that we do with the birds, and frequently do this throughout the day, is to exercise the broilers. And that basically just means really what I'm doing right now. I walk around the broiler pen. And we do that for several reasons. Sorry, we're getting shadow. Trying to avoid that. I might have to go the other direction actually to avoid it. But we do that exercise in the broilers for several reasons. It gives us opportunity to assess how the birds are doing, and it gives us opportunity to evaluate if their legs are staying strong and if their mobility is good. And those 2 indicators really give us a good sense of, is this bird as an individual going to do well through production, and overall gives us a good sense, of a flock's well-being if all the birds are able to move around. If they were struggling, it might give us a sense too that we don't have enough space for them, and we maybe don't have enough feeders and waters for them, because if we see them, with mobility issues, it probably means that they're either not moving around, so their legs are weak, not building strength, or there's not enough resources in the chicken pen for them, and they maybe are having to compete so much for resources that they could be injuring each other when they're trying to get food and when they're trying to get water. So that's things we want to pay attention to. We want to make sure they have enough room to move around some. We don't want to have them overdoing it. We are trying to raise meat birds here, but we want to make sure they have enough room to move around so they can continuously build leg strength. We also want to make sure we're providing ample resources for the number of birds we have and ample space for the number of birds we have. So basically, I've just walked a loop around their pen, and all of the birds that were on the outside of the pen that they're in got up, moved around, moved toward food, moved toward water, and then I'll actually, before I would leave the pen, I'll come through and make sure that all these birds down through here that are sitting at lights get up and move, which actually just moving near them is getting exactly the response we want. We're seeing most of these birds, yeah, they're all getting up, so we're seeing good movement, good mobility. So exercising the broilers is an important part of our management program for raising them. Let me step to the side to remove my shadow from that screen. So exercise your broilers, if especially if they're raised in a confinement. If nothing else, get in there and move them around. If you're raising them in a chicken tractor, you're probably moving them periodically, but if there's long stretches that chicken tractor is staying in one place, those birds may not be moving a lot, and so that can have an impact. Now there's this one. I'm going to kind of watch this bird. I don't see a problem with this bird, except that bird is smaller than the other birds in the flock. And we've taken 2 birds out of this flock because they were runts. And we lost 3 birds early on from this flock, and they had been runts. And they ended up, not being able to move away from a group under a heat lamp, and that overheated them or crushed them and suffocated them. And so that's a risk when we've got big birds and little birds together. But that one, even being small, I believe it's to the size where it's going to be able to hold its own in here. But I hope you can get a sense there of the size difference. It's a good bit smaller than the other birds in the pen with it. And so we have a couple of these lights turned off. We were in the 70s Fahrenheit earlier this afternoon. I did think we were going to get some bad storm because it got real balmy and had a little bit of a breeze, and it just felt like a storm was coming. But I had to close the barn up too, so we didn't need to put quite as much heat into the building. But it's going to be a nice evening, but we are going to have to close the door just to be on the safe side. Close the doors. So there's the 4 meat birds. So this video is really just showing you the meat bird flock at 23 days old. But there's the 4 that had to be moved from here. So total, the pen with lots of meat birds and those 4 meat birds, total there's 123 meat birds. We're pretty sure none of these 4 will go to processing when this flock goes. The 2 that are just runts, just there because they're small, they could take off growing, and we could still send them with this flock. The 2 that are injured, we're going to wait and see. One is a leg injury, and it is looking a lot better, and the other one is a wing injury, and that bird is eating and drinking, but isn't moving around much. So okay, so to close up the barn for the evening, we got to fill feeders and waters on that side. And on this side, water, see the trays? So we'll clean the trays out. Okay, water trays need cleaned. And these, I think these are all similar. So they're only, they're only about half down. Okay, so holds 5 gallons. Those are only about halfway down. So we'll what we'll end up probably doing is, like, see the small waters, they still like to use those. So we've got about 4 in here for them. So we'll probably fill those small waters like out of these to make sure that we're using that water up, and then we'll refill these. Feeders, I must be zoomed in super close. Okay, so feeders, we have provided so far 500 pounds of feed. The 2 feeders there are nearly empty. That feeder's down to just the tray. That feeder's down to just the tray. And that feeder's down to just the tray. This one's about half full. So we will actually put more feed in tonight. Okay? And trying to get close in on some of these birds to give y'all a sense of size. Okay, that's a rooster. That's a rooster there. See him up at the feeder eating. So you're right in here with us. Do y'all eat chicken? Do you like chicken? You know, we didn't like chicken prior to raising these birds. These aren't the only kind of meat birds, but these are Cornish rock cross. So, my opinion, there's not a better meat bird. There's certainly not a faster growing meat bird. So there are other kinds of meat birds. They take longer to go from hatching to being ready to process. But you can take these birds, Cornish rock cross meat chickens. Well, we're going to aim for like 5 weeks to have them ready. And we're saying ready, and that'll yield us about a 4 to 4.5 pound whole chicken. Okay? Is what we're going for, because that's kind of what our customers want. So I wonder if those two are going to go at each other. They didn't. So you could raise them, you could raise them to 8 weeks or 10 weeks. You'll just have a bigger finished bird. Something you want to kind of be aware of, we don't process our own, but I have heard comments from people that do process their own, that sometimes some of the, like, vacuum seal bags you get to put them in after you process them, those might max out at a certain weight bird. And I've noticed even from taking our birds to the processor, the birds that finish like heavier than a 5 pound whole bird, you can tell it takes up all of that packaging that they had put them in, at least some of our later flocks last year. So if you are processing for yourself, that's something that we noticed. Be mindful of what size your birds are and what size your packaging material is, and just try to be prepared of having that kind of match up, So this flock is looking good. We do have 15 days to go. We want to make sure they eat 1,000 pounds of feed before the end of production. And like I said, we're going to put 100 more pounds in tonight, so that'll take us up to 600 pounds. What did I say they are at 23 days old? So that'll take them a little over 24 hours to eat. So might as well say 600 pounds in 24 days, right? That looks like a hen. So trying to let you get a sense there of the size of how they're putting on meat. We're seeing a lot of meat production in the thigh, a lot of meat production in the chicken breast, okay? And they'll sit like that, and then they'll change how they're sitting. Some good size there. But, it's kind of odd that it's kind of relaxing just to watch the chickens. So anyway, just wanted to update. Day 23, we're pleased. Hello. We're pleased with how they're doing. This flock is sold out, y'all. Can you believe that? This flock is sold out. One of the things that we do is we take pre-orders on poultry. So this flock, we have plans to have it made into chicken breast, and when it's like, can I make it up to there? I doubt it. I doubt it. We have had Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens get up on things like where we have down in the corner here. We'll walk down here and I'll show you. Like down in the corner here, where we have a corner board, a piece of scrap wood just to prevent them from piling up on each other in the corner there. Like they can get up on something like that and perch, but they won't make it onto the top of those walls, I don't think. Not at this age and size now. But anyway, so I was telling you, we're gonna have this flock made into chicken breast, and so when you make chicken breast, then that's also gonna produce chicken wings, and that's also going to produce chicken thighs and chicken drumsticks. And we're going to ask to have the thighs and drumsticks made into ground chicken that will then be processed into patties that are seasoned with salt and pepper. So we know going into it that this flock is sold out on chicken breast, sold out on chicken wings, and sold out on the chicken, there you go, and sold out on the chicken patties we can make from the thighs and drumsticks. So not that we necessarily want them jumping up on things like that, but they do. I wonder if it's going to try again. But we've not, like I said, we've not had them get up to the height they'd have to get on those crates. So anyway, but it is interesting that, you know, like a flock of 100 plus, they were sold out not too long after we moved them in. And then there's a flock of 100 coming right behind them, and we're about 20% sold out on that flock. So, you know, basically taking the pre-orders helps our patrons know that their request is going to be available, and helps us know that we have community support. And I'm sure y'all have heard of community supported agriculture, and it's this is kind of a form of that. You know, when we take the pre-orders, we don't require deposits and we don't impose obligations other than just when it's ready, accept it or decline it immediately, and please pick it up promptly. But you know, it's community supported agriculture in the sense that we know we're going to produce the product, and we have people that have spoken for wanting it. So in effect, you know, we're raising these meat birds for our community, and we know that there's a need for it in the community and a want for it in the community. So if we can do that, probably anybody can do that. But anyway, it's interesting that these Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens, you know, really do make excellent poultry, and there really is a great response to it. So let us know if y'all raise Cornish Rock Cross meat chickens, and let us know what some of your management practice are, and let us know what some of your questions are about raising them. So finish up here with giving you an estimate on cost to raise them, and I'm going kind of off of rough numbers and just trying to pull it from memory from last year. But to just raise them, so that's buying chicks, buying feed, paying that figures in the utility costs that we had in the electric and water and bedding. We had between $6 and $7 a bird in raising them, but processing them adds cost to it, and that took our cost up to about $13 a bird, or by the pound equivalent of about right at $4 a pound, right under $4 a pound. So that kind of gives you an idea, at least 2023 numbers, where we were at on some of that. So I don't know, you could probably expect similar, you know, depending on what you feed, depending on what your utility cost is. And then, like I said, if you're gonna process them yourself, you know, you're gonna be at that base cost kind of what's it take just to get the chicks and get the supplies and take them start to finish. But if you go ahead and take them to a USDA inspected processor, I would say to you, kind of figure on that almost doubling your production cost. Certainly the most economical way to get them processed at a processors to just have them processed into whole chickens. So, hey, join us again at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry on YouTube.